That's an appropriate title for their show. How about that? Let's check out some of their offerings, shall we?
We're told the damn Bible's an important guide to live by, and the same folks say it's the best-selling book of all time. And yet it never seems to crack the Amazon top 100 list.
What makes this genius think that most people buy their Bibles at Amazon.com? Did this idiot ever hear of Barnes & Noble and the thousands of small religious bookstores that there are all over the world? And many churches have their own bookstores where they sell Bibles and other religious articles. Does this genius think that Amazon.com goes around and surveys every bookstore and every Barnes & Noble and every church to find out how many Bibles were sold this year? The fact of the matter is, in the United States alone, there are more than 25 million copies sold every year. That's just the United States alone. So this argument of Penn and Teller's is really idiotic.
Now it's time to turn to Genesis 6, 11 through 13, Noah's Ark.
There's no possible way that Noah could have retained all 10 billion species.
And here Penn and Teller parade out another genius named Michael Shermer, who wants you to believe that there were 10 billion species on this planet. Go look up any technical book on species and you'll find there was never anywhere near 10 billion species on this planet. In fact, in 2012, the scientists claimed that there was about 8 million species on this planet. Secondly, not all species had to be on the ark to begin with. All the creatures that live in the ocean didn't have to be on the ark. Insects didn't have to be on the ark. The only thing that had to be on the ark were nostril-breathing kinds. And when we are talking about kinds, we are talking about creatures like the canine kind, the feline kind, the bovine kind. For instance, there are over 500 variations of dogs in the world. Yet scientists will tell you that they all descended from one original pair, which they believe to be the Asian gray wolf. So not all 500 variations had to be aboard the ark, only the original pair. And that goes for the feline kind and the bovine kind and every other kind. So when you understand what was meant by kind, you become to understand that not a great deal of animals were needed to be aboard. Okay, let's look at this boat that they've got these animals headed towards. What is described in the Bible is nowhere near as small as what they are showing you in this film here. The ark was 450 feet long, 75 feet wide, 45 feet high. It had 3 levels, and each level had over 30,000 square feet of floor space. The volume of the ark was over 1.5 million cubic feet. It has been estimated that there would have been required about 40,000 animals to be on the ark, and those 40,000 animals would have only taken up about 1/3 of the volume of the ark. The larger animals could have been selected in their infant stages, which would have saved a lot of space.
Now we turn to Exodus 14, 22 to 31, Moses and the Red Sea. Thousands of Jews are supposedly enslaved by an Egyptian pharaoh. I don't want to sound like Mel Gibson's dad here, but we can't find any evidence of that. None. Really, none. Floods we find, but enslaved Jews in Egypt, nowhere outside of the damn Bible.
And where would you find the evidence for that? Wouldn't it be in the writings and the archaeology of that time and the people involved? The Hebrews wrote down their account in their scriptures, but apparently Penn and Teller don't recognize those as being valid. So let's get the other side, the Egyptians. The Egyptians thought that their pharaoh was a god. Now, does anybody in his right mind believe that the pharaoh is going to tell his scribes to record for all of posterity about how his mighty army was incapable of stopping some lowly slaves who were unarmed from escaping from his country? Yeah, that's really going to happen. No, you can bet your bottom dollar that Pharaoh was not about to have that period of history recorded in any document or inscribed on any of his buildings.
We are told that these people spent 40 years wandering around in the desert. They escaped as slaves from Egypt and so forth. There is not a shred of archaeological or historical evidence outside of the Bible that this is even true, that it ever even happened. You would think that if a people spent 40 years wandering around in the desert, they'd leave some archaeological evidence.
And here you have another example of a not so well thought out argument. These people were wandering around for 40 years. They weren't settling down and building permanent structures. They were probably living out of tents. So after 3,000 years, what kind of evidence does this idiot think that could be found in a desert? Deserts in that area of the world are prone to sandstorms, flash floods, earthquakes. So after 3,000 years of that kind of repeated activity, any tracks that they made in their wanderings would have been obliterated a long time ago. So this fool thinks that they're going to find something over there of a wandering people who didn't stop to build any kind of permanent structures. Amazing. And to me, what is most disturbing is how arrogantly fools like Michael Shermer dismiss the writings of the Hebrew people as if they were liars, and somehow to idiots like Shermer, only non-Judeo-Christian sources are valid sources for reporting the accounts of history. That's a joke. The Old Testament can be pretty graphic when it describes what God told the Hebrews to do to people like the Amalekites. And concerning those graphic descriptions, Penn had this to say.
You don't often hear that verse in church or see it in those children's illustrated Bible stories, do you?
Do we expose to our children in elementary school the graphic details of what occurred in Hitler's death camps? Why not? Well, because it's a topic that deals with adult subject matter, not for children. Why would this idiot expect the preacher to talk about adult subject matter where children might be present in church services, or to place adult subject matter into children's Bible stories? People like Penn are just really ignorant when they make stupid comments like this.
Jesus was not the only Messiah at the time. There were lots of Messiahs. In fact, there was another fellow named Apollonius.
Well, the claims of the followers of Apollonius or any other false Messiah didn't impress very many people. Can you name even one that came anywhere close to having as many things written about him or for him than Jesus Christ? Why do you think that is? Well, the reason, of course, is that none of those false messiahs rose from the dead like he did, and none of those false messiahs affected the lives of millions of people throughout the last 2,000 years, and none of those messiahs continues to affect the lives of people all over the world today.
There's other gospels that we're just now beginning to hear about that didn't make the Bible. They didn't make the... What do you mean they didn't make the Bible? What are you talking about? This is the inspired word of God.
Apparently this fool hasn't a clue as to how biblical scholarship works. Just as in science, where you have peer reviews to determine what is considered valid scientific argumentation, the biblical scholarship world also has a peer review system. But fools like Shermer haven't a clue as to how that peer review system works within the scholarship world of biblical Christianity. And I find it amusing when atheists try to promote the idea that there's some kind of experts on the Bible. It's like a plumber trying to tell us the correct procedures to doing brain surgery. This concludes another in the series called Exposing Atheistic Ignorance. Please join me the next time, Lord willing. There is a next time when we expose the next fool.